Hello everyone. Now I'm going to explain part second of the chapter 2 stories about flying entitled The Black Aeroplane. It is written by Frederick Forsyth. Frederick McCARTHY Forsyth, born on 25th August 1938. He is a British novelist. He is also a journalist, a former spy detective, and occasional political commentator. He is a versatile figure. His novels are noted for their journalistic style because he had been a journalist as well, and his novels are also noted for their fast paced plots. The stories, the theme is really very fast, based on international political affairs, and most of his novels are based on international political affairs and international political personalities. It is because he had been a political commentator as well. Forsyth had qualified for a pilot's license. He had been a pilot as well. He was qualified for a pilot's license and he joined the Royal Air Force as well. And we will see that in this chapter, the narrator who's going to tell the story is a pilot. Now, let us know what the theme of the chapter is. The stormy night. It is about a stormy night. We will see that the pilot or the narrator is in the aeroplane and he's flying in the middle of the night. The narrators wish to reach England. The narrator wants to go to England because after so many days he is to meet his family. That's why his wish to reach England is expressed here, and because of this wish, the story moves ahead. The risk taken by a pilot, and then the theme is the risk that is taken by a pilot, the narrator who takes the risk because the storm was there and he went through the storm. An unsolved mystery. At the end we will see that there is a mystery there in this chapter, and the mystery is not solved till the end, and the mystery is that of a black aeroplane. Now let us know the story. It's a story of a pilot flying an old Dakota aeroplane over Paris towards England. So the narrator is going over Paris and he was going to England. He dreams of having a big breakfast with his family in the morning because now he is thinking to meet his family in the morning. It is midnight and the sky is clear with shining stars. And the chapter begins, we see that the sky is clear. He could see the lights of the cities that he was flying over. He gets instruction to turn 12 degrees west from Paris control room, and now he contacts to Paris control room and they instruct him to turn the plane 12 degrees west in order to go to England. Now he is around 150 kilometers away from Paris and sees huge storm clouds. And when does the storm come? The storm comes when he is 150 kilometers away from Paris because now there was no way going back. He decides to enter the storm as he wants to see his family because he could not go up or over the storm because he was not having enough fuel. That's why he had got only two options, either to go back to Paris or to go through the storm, to enter the storm. And he just took the risk because he wanted to see his family and he entered the storm. And what is the condition of the narrator when he enters the storm? He loses control over the plane, and the compass, radio, and other instruments get dead. So when he was in the storm, he did not have control over his plane. His plane was twisting and tossing, and when he tried to find the way, when he tried to find the direction, he found that his instruments also stopped working. His compass, his radio, everything stopped working. Suddenly he notices a black aeroplane in front of him. Then, in this adverse condition of the narrator, he saw a ray of hope, and that ray of hope was in the form of an aeroplane. It was a black aeroplane. He follows the instructions of the other pilot like an obedient child, and the black aeroplane was moving just in front of him, showing him the right direction, making the narrator follow him, and the narrator was following like an obedient child. But now his second and last fuel tank gets exhausted. But again he got terrified when he saw the fuel tank, and the last and the only fuel tank that was left to him, and it was getting empty. Suddenly he notices a row of light on ground and lands safely on the runway. When he saw the fuel tank, he knew that he was in danger, but then the other aeroplane turned downwards, and after some time, the narrator saw that he was out of the storm, and he could see two lights in front of him, and those lights were of the runway. He looks for the pilot of the black aeroplane but couldn't find him. Then the narrator looks at the other aeroplane. He wanted to meet the other pilot in order to thank him. The author asks the woman of control room. The author entered the control room, and when he asked about the other pilot and the other aeroplane, he got surprised. The narrator got surprised when he knew that there was no other aeroplane in the sky. The radar could see only one aeroplane, and that aeroplane was that of the narrator. So there was no other aeroplane. Now we see that the story ends in a mystery. And the mystery was the other aeroplane who helped the narrator, because the radar does not show any other aeroplane in the sky. So this was the mystery, and that mystery was not solved at the end, or till the end that mystery was not solved. Who helped the narrator? The black aeroplane. The moon was coming up in the east behind me, and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. So the weather was very good. There was no cloud in the sky. It was night because the moon was coming up, and he could see the stars as well. So it was night there. The sky was very clear. Cloud was not there. I was happy to be alone high up above the sleeping countryside. I refers to the narrator, who is a pilot, and he was really happy because he was flying high above the sleeping countryside, above the people of the countryside who were sleeping. I was flying my old Dakota. He was flying his plane, his aeroplane, that is old Dakota, over France. He was flying over France back to England, and he was moving towards England. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. He was happy. Why? He was happy because he was thinking of spending his holidays with his family members. He is looking forward to. He is expecting. He is thinking to be with his family members. I looked at my watch. He looked at the time. It was 1:30 in the morning. It was really dark. I should call Paris control soon, I thought. As I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. When the writer looked ahead, past the nose of the aeroplane, ahead of him, ahead of the aeroplane, so he could see the lights of a big city, and that big city was Paris. I switched on the radio, and then he decided to contact Paris control because he could see Paris there. So he switched on his radio and said, this was the message that he gave to Paris control. Paris control, Dakota DSO-88. This is the name of his aeroplane, Dakota DSO-88. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England, over. So this was the message put by the narrator. And then the reply came immediately. Immediately, the voice from the radio answered. And what was the reply? DSO-88, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DSO-88 over. This was the reply, and the Paris control instructed him to turn his aeroplane 12 degrees west. I checked the map and the compass. The narrator checked every instrument of his aeroplane. He checked map, he checked compass, and because the fuel was empty, or one tank had been empty, so he turned to the second, and it was the last fuel tank. He turned on the second fuel tank because the first one was exhausted, and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England, as he was instructed by the Paris control. I'll be in time for breakfast. He was thinking of having breakfast with his family members. I thought, a good big English breakfast. He was thinking of having breakfast with his family members, and it would be a big breakfast. Everything was going well to him. The weather was nice. The sky was clear. It was an easy flight, and he was thinking of the flight. It was really easy for him. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind. He had left Paris behind 150 kilometers when I saw the clouds, and then the problem came to him. And the problem was in the form of storm clouds. They were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. And those clouds were really big, and they were looking like black mountains. Huge clouds they were, standing in front of me across the sky. He was comparing those clouds with black mountains standing in front of him. I knew I could not fly up and over them. He could not go up and over those clouds because they were really huge. He knew it. And I did not have enough fuel, and he did not have enough fuel to fly around them, and he could not fly around those storm clouds. He could not go to north, or he could not go to south. I ought to go back to Paris. So this was one option to him, to go back to Paris. It was 150 kilometers away. I thought, but I wanted to get home. But this was his desire. He wanted to get home. I wanted the breakfast. He wanted to have that breakfast, big English breakfast. I'll take the risk. And then he decided to take the risk, I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. He decided to go through the storm. And now he is inside the storm, and what is his condition and what is the condition of his aeroplane? We will see here. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was dark there inside the cloud. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. He could not see anything there outside the aeroplane. The old aeroplane, it was jumping and it was twisting in the air because he was losing control over his plane. I looked at the compass. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round and round. It was dead. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. So, in the storm, all the instruments stopped working. The compass, the needle of the compass was turning round and round, and the compass was dead. Other instruments were also dead. Now he tried to communicate through radio to Paris control. Paris control, Paris control. Can you hear me? He was trying to communicate. There was no answer. It means his radio was also dead. So now he was all alone there in the storm, and no other instrument was working. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. He could not see to what direction he was moving because his aeroplane was jumping and twisting because of the storm. I was lost in the storm. He was completely lost there in the storm. Then, in the black clouds quite near me, he saw another aeroplane. Then there came a ray of hope, and that ray of hope was in the form of an aeroplane. It had no lights, though the aeroplane did not have lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. But narrator could see the other aeroplane flying next to him. I could see the pilot's face, and he could also see the face of the pilot turned towards me, and the pilot of the another aeroplane, he was looking towards the narrator. I was very glad, and narrator was really happy to see another person there. He lifted one hand and waved. He moved his hand. The other pilot, he was moving his hand and he was indicating something to the narrator. He was saying, the pilot of the other aeroplane was saying that the narrator should follow him. He knows that I'm lost. I thought he is trying to help me. So the narrator thought that the other pilot, he was having the idea, or he knew exactly that the narrator had lost his way and he was there to help the narrator. He turned his aeroplane slowly to north in front of my Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. So now the other aeroplane was just in front of the aeroplane of the narrator. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane, and the narrator was really happy, and he was following the aeroplane like an obedient child because he knew that it was the only hope for him to escape. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. So now another problem that the narrator was facing, it was the lack of fuel. He had only fuel enough to take him 5 or 10 minutes more. I was starting to feel frightened again, and again he was afraid there because now the fuel tank was going to be empty. But then he started to go down. But then the other aeroplane, he started to go down, and the narrator in fact was following through the storm that person. Suddenly I came out of the clouds and saw two long straight lines of lights in front of me. and suddenly he was out of the clouds, and then he could see two straight lines of lights in front of me, and those straight lights were of a runway. It was a runway, so he was really happy. This is mark of exclamation. So he exclaimed with happiness that he could see a runway there, an airport. It was an airport. I was safe. The narrator was safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black aeroplane, but the sky was empty. Now he tried to find the other plane, but there was no plane in the sky. The sky was empty. There was nothing there. The black aeroplane was gone. The black aeroplane had left. I could not see it anywhere, and the narrator could not find, could not see, could not spot the other aeroplane anywhere in the sky or near him. I landed and was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. I landed, and then he landed there onto that runway, and he was not sorry. He was not sorry to walk away. Why he was not sorry? Because now he managed to save his life. He might have been sorry because he could not say thank to the other person who saved his life, but he was not sorry because now at last he was safe. I went and asked a woman. Then he went into the control room and he asked the woman in the control center where I was. He asked the woman in the control center about his position and who the other pilot was. And he also asked about the other pilot who saved his life. Why? Because he wanted to say thank you, because he wanted to thank the other pilot there who saved his life. She looked at me very strangely. That lady looked at the narrator strangely and then laughed. And then the lady laughed. She looked at narrator strangely because the narrator was saying something that looked impossible to that lady. And she laughed because she was thinking as if the narrator had lost the control over his mind. Another aeroplane? Up there in the storm. She could not believe. No other aeroplanes were flying tonight. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. So the lady was really looking strangely at the narrator and laughing at the narrator because there was no other aeroplane flying that night, as she confirmed. And she said that she could not see any other aeroplane on the radar as well. That's why she was laughing strangely. So, who helped me to arrive there safely? Without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks, who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without light? So here the chapter ends with a very mysterious note, and the mystery was the other person, the other pilot who helped the narrator in that condition. The narrator was in really bad condition. He did not have compass or radio working properly, and he did not have enough fuel to go or to last for a long time. And the mystery was unsolved because still the narrator could not find any clue of that person who helped him. Now let's know the message of the story. The story teaches the message, and the message is that we should not give up hope. As the narrator was doing, he did not give up hopes initially, and later on he was helped by the other person there. And the other message that the writer wants to convey is that we should not stop trying when we are in trouble. He did not stop trying. He tried every means, every way to escape. He tried to check his compass. he tried to check all the instruments and also radio. So he was not losing hope. He was just trying the best that he could do. And the writer also wants to say that we should not be afraid of taking risks. The risks taken by us could change the whole life of ours. And if no one is going to take a risk in the world is not going to improve itself. That's why risks must be taken. We should not be afraid of taking risks. And one risk the narrator took, he just went through the storm and ultimately he was a winner. The writer also says that we should accept challenges, as the narrator accepted the challenge of going through the storm and he was out of that storm in a good way. So this was the chapter. I hope you have understood the chapter well. So thank you for watching the video patiently. I hope you have understood the topic well. So like and share the video and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you with a new video on a new topic. Till then, bye.